Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Ned's Club chat with me, Dawn Butler. And I've got an amazing panel with me today, the launch of Lesbian Visibility Week. So get excited, and all those that are watching us online on the Diva platform, good morning and welcome to you all. So who have I got with me today? I've got the wonderful Nancy Kelly, CEO of Stonewall. Hi Nancy.
Hi there.
I've got the amazing Lady Phil.
Hello.
Lady Phil is the Executive Director of Kaleidoscope. And I've got the phenomenal and the founder of Lesbian Visibility Week and also the publisher of Diva, Miss Linda Riley.
Hello, Dawn.
So Linda, Lesbian Visibility Week, your brainchild. This is the second year. It's kind of big this year. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's going like global. It's in Europe, it's in America. Everybody's talking about it. Why? Why have Lesbian Visibility Week?
Well, as you said, I'm the publisher of Diva magazine. It's the largest magazine for LGBTQI women, and it gave me a chance to use that platform to create this week. There was formerly a Lesbian Visibility Day, but I quite simply thought a day is not enough to celebrate lesbians, and let's do a week. I actually think we should celebrate them every day of the year, but a week of total seeing how many times you can say the word lesbian feels good.
So did you feel sort of invisible, and so you thought, I need to make it visible, or do you think that it just wasn't being spoken about enough, or you know, the LGBTQI plus, which gets longer and longer, you know, each year there's another letter added to it. Did you think that the L just wasn't being celebrated enough?
Yeah, I absolutely feel the L is not celebrated enough. I'm a big advocate of the L being used. I felt it was in the acronyms, but it wasn't being used. I actually had a conversation with Nancy about, for example, Ida Hobbit Day. We'll go into that, but I feel it should have the L, and it should be Ida Hoblit Day. And I've noticed that the L was becoming more and more invisible. One big thing was I was noticing when I was introducing myself at one point as a lesbian, people, because I'm a cis lesbian, people were somehow thinking I was transphobic, and I wanted to showcase the fact that you can say that you're a lesbian with pride, but let people know you're also inclusive. And this is what the week is about, celebrating lesbians and celebrating the fact that we are inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And like, Phil, it's like you're very much about visibility, aren't you? Like, you've created Black Pride, and so what does Lesbian Visibility Week mean to you?
I think, thank you very much, Dawn. I think when we're talking about lesbian visibility, we've got to look at lesbians in the entirety. And I love saying the word lesbian. So lesbian, 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 lesbian. And I hope everyone who's watching is saying it at the same time. But visibility is not just about being seen, but it's being in spaces where we haven't ordinarily been able to occupy. And it's also being safe as well in visibility, because you can be visible and you can be exposed, but if there's no safety or mechanisms around you to support that, then actually it's not a good thing. But what Lesbian Visibility Week creates, and thank you Linda for creating such a week, it means that we can talk unapologetically about who we are, how we do things, when we do things, and as and when we want. And I think that that's positive, that's empowering, and it's liberating as well. You know, and I should just say that UK Black Pride was born out of lesbian women organising. That's how we got UK Black Pride.
And it's amazing. I mean, I love UK Black Pride. I mean, honestly, dancing the whole day through. And as a Nancy, like Stonewall. Yeah. So for those people who don't know, what is Stonewall?
So,
who are Stonewall?
So apart from great, and also people that like saying the word lesbian a lot, particularly me. So we're Europe's largest LGBTQ plus human rights organisation, and we were founded about 30 years ago to oppose Section 28, which prevented people being able to talk about LGBTQ people in schools. And we do a lot of work around the world in partnership with Kaleidoscope to support human rights defenders all around the world that are fighting for our communities. We do a lot of work here around education, around workplaces, around kind of uplifting kind of the most marginalised parts of the LGBTQ community. And I think for us, I would really kind of amplify both of what Phil and Linda have been pointing to. Actually celebrating lesbians, celebrating queer women is really important. And we are often kind of pushed to the back in the movement as well as in society as a whole. And one of the things that's really powerful for me is kind of when I go and talk to young people, and I think they're going to be impressed because they're meeting the chief exec of Stonewall, actually every time there's a young woman in that room, and the most impressive thing for them is meeting an adult lesbian with a family that's just walking around being visible. And so I think that for us to be able to support this with Diva, and for me as a lesbian to be able to be kind of here and having this conversation feels just really powerful and just a lot of fun.
And is that so you're achieving your goal, Linda, in terms of just lesbians being lesbians, being able to say the word lesbians, showing that there's lesbians in all different walks of life, doing all different jobs, so that, as you say, like Nancy, so young people can just say, oh yeah, I can be who I am. I can be what, you know, who I am, my authentic self, bring it to work and just exceed, you know, my wildest dreams. Is that kind of where you're going with Lesbian Visibility Week? What is your vision for Lesbian Visibility Week?
Well, my vision is for it to just grow, for there to be, and it's actually coming to fruit this year. People in the workplace are doing lesbian visibility events. A lot of people are struggling to get 4 out lesbians on their panel at work, and this is from a network of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And my vision is for there not to be a struggle, and for people to feel it's okay to say I'm a lesbian. Interestingly enough, I'm about to release a video later today. I was on the board of GLAAD for 6 years in the USA to show how global this is becoming. And Sarah Kate Ellis, the lesbian president, lots of CEOs and of organisations that are lesbians actually. She's released a statement saying that a survey in the USA have shown that this year more and more people are identifying as lesbian than ever before. So that's what I want is basically there was a feeling at one point that people were saying they didn't want to use the word lesbian, and young people weren't using the word, but more and more people are, which is fantastic, you know.
Why is that? Why were young people not using the word lesbian?
I think it's about how one wants to identify and express themselves, and as we know, language evolves and moves on, and I'm from an old school of thought that actually I love using the word lesbian because people either feel like, oh, stand back, or careful, you know, that's a bit much, or they're ready to embrace it. I think our younger people, our younger generation, really are having different conversations about expression and identity. And, you know, the word queer started really coming into the conversation and the dialogue about, you know, how they saw themselves. But now I'm also seeing younger people, especially in UK Black Pride, really proud to wear the name lesbian as an identifier of who they are. But I guess it's down to the individual, and it's down to how they position themselves, what it actually means to them. So for me, being a lesbian, I'm a lover of women, and I love women. I love the fact that, you know, 2 women can connect on a certain level. And when I say women, I also include my trans sisters in that, because trans women are women. And I think, you know, that visibility, that realness, that rawness of even the word, if it feels raw to some people, is who I am and what makes up part of my, you know, many different facets. So yeah, I'm just proud.
And you used to be a civil servant before.
Yes.
Nancy used to be a civil servant.
I spent a little bit of time as a civil servant as well, yeah.
Did you used to be a civil servant, Linda?
No,
and what was it like in the civil service? I mean, I used to be a civil servant. So the odd one out. But what was it like in the civil service being a lesbian in the civil service?
Well, my time in the civil service was a long time ago, but I did spend over 10 years. I guess there's something about when you come out at work or when you don't, or who you tell, because the civil service is very, it's like Parliament. It's very antiquated and bureaucratic. So, you know, if you don't fit into a certain norm or a box, you're not spoken to or you're not spoken about. So I think I went through much of my civil service days not really saying very much about how I spent my time at the weekends, because everybody's talking about, you know, their boyfriends, their wives, their girlfriends, and it just
it's
didn't
scary.
feel,
Like you think if you come out that you're going to be judged a certain way.
and it also depends on what position you have.
Yeah,
You know, when you're able to walk through these corridors of power and you feel that you're there and you've positioned yourself in the right way, you don't have any fear. But when you're maybe an administrator who is part of really making sure the office runs, you don't push or rock the boat, and you may not put your head above the parapet. So there were probably loads of lesbians, but you know, nobody said anything. And I think at a period in the civil service, if you were LGBT, you couldn't come out because there was that discrimination clause. You wouldn't say anything about your sexual orientation or status.
I think seeing what Phil says is really powerful and really true around kind of your position now. So I kind of went in for a bit later in my career and I was quite senior, so I was protected by that. And I'm not very good at being in the closet, so I've always, you know, this is what it is. I'm a big fat working class lesbian. That's what you get. That's how it looks, right?
You always said, I'm a lesbian.
Yeah. No, I was a kind of late starter, but once I got started, I was all the way in. But I think my experience of being in that very conservative workplace, and I think a lot of workplaces are quite conservative still, I think, was that hyper visibility, because I was out and I would be very frequently the only out LGBT person in meetings of people at my kind of level. And on one level you're creating space for other people, but it can be quite tiring, right? It can be quite tiring being the only of anything. You know, so I think that young lesbians going into a career, you know, what it means to be in the workplace and be out in the workplace changes for you as your career progresses, as you move through different kinds of workplaces. But yeah, I didn't ever quite get the grey suit.
But I think I mean, you are all now very much senior, sort of lesbian women. There's a couple of questions.
Dawn, senior.
You are all.
There's me thinking I was 21.
Powerful. She means powerful and youthful.
As in powerful, not as in senior, as in, you know, age.
Just touch your
But it's and it seems like you're all using your platform to make sure that those people just starting out in their career, you know, those lesbians or LGBTQI plus family just starting out, feel safe, you know, feel like they're able to come out and be their authentic self. How important is that to you, Linda? You run a magazine that basically showcases lesbians and, you know, the LGBTQI plus community.
Yeah, it's really important. In fact, I not so much this year because we haven't been out. This is probably our first time out.
I know, we're out in person.
We have, but formally, you know, when I'd go out, I'd meet lesbians and some quite famous ones or some not so famous ones, and so many of them had the same story to tell me. It was quite incredible. They're telling me when they first came out, they would go into a shop and buy Diva, then they would hide it and take it home. They would hide it when they're buying, some of them would hide it at home. And it just meant a lot to them because they felt they weren't alone. And I think that's the importance of Lesbian Visibility Week, where people look at it and they realise they're not alone. You know, so
it's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, hiding the magazine, I mean, I left home ages ago, but one of the things I said to Linda some time ago, and I'm fortunate to write for Diva magazine as a columnist, and I've been able to edit 2 editions of Diva magazine, is that I complained and I said, I weren't seeing black representation of queer and lesbian women and bi women in there. So when you don't see yourself, you have to create that. So I started writing, and I see Diva magazine as really important to amplifying the differences in our communities, in society, in making sure that black lesbian women, or black women who are still highlighting or trying to find out or feel out who they are, have got stories that are told by us and for us, as opposed to the narrative being shaped by somebody else and telling us this is how black lesbians live their lives or what they do. So Diva magazine is really important to me and many of the people that, you know, I serve and that I work with.
Is it okay to find out who you are? Is it okay, you know, to go on a journey, Nancy, to not know who you are? Is that okay?
Of course it's okay, right? We are who we are. Lots of people, our understanding of who we are changes over our lifetime. All of those things are great. There's nothing wrong with fluidity. There's nothing wrong with change. And I think, you know, I don't mourn the loss of the days of the gold star lesbian, they called it, which is, someone that's always known they're a lesbian, has never dated men, never, you know, all of that kind of thing. There isn't any hierarchy within our community. And I think for me, some of what Phil's saying kind of connects with this. Like, our community is inclusive, is embracing, should be, isn't always, but should be. And that includes people that are exploring who they are, that are exploring their identity, that are understanding themselves in different ways. You know, we talk about kind of using the word queer or using the word lesbian or etc. And, you know, these are just describing words, right? These are just ways that we as women try and communicate to other people and to ourselves what's important to us about our identity. And so, of course, kind of change and exploration is welcome, right? That really matters. And I think that none of us win when we have these very rigid concepts. This is what a woman is, this is what a lesbian is, this is what a bi person is. You know, that is harmful, right? And I think that the more that we just embrace the idea that as we go through life, you know, some of us kind of wake up at 10 and know that we're a lesbian and we're going to be an airline pilot when we grow up. But for a lot of us, that's not how it works. I think that's beautiful. And I think creating space for that is beautiful.
Yeah. And how important are allies in this journey in ensuring that there's Lesbian Visibility Week, or that everyone can just be who they are?
Okay.
I love the way you're like winding up for that.
So, I mean, the term allies is rather subjective, right? And I've seen some performative actions from those who class themselves as allies. But I think in any space where there is a movement, you need allies. And your allyship has to be rooted in solidarity. And if it's not rooted in solidarity, then it's not allyship. But we want to see from our allies, you know, standing shoulder to shoulder or sitting shoulder to shoulder with us when we are talking about the things that harm us, that discriminate against us, that criminalise us. We want to see, you know, making sure that allies are also able to do their own research, so they're not just waiting on our labour to give them more education, you know, and support them through their particular journey of understanding who we are. And I think importantly, allies have to find a way of being able to put their money where their mouth is. So whilst we've got Lesbian Visibility Week, whilst we've got so many different movements, is what are you going to do to make sure you amplify Lesbian Visibility Week? You know, and it's not just a today thing. Like Linda said, you know, we want this 365 days of the year, because we don't switch off being lesbians, we don't switch off being black, we don't switch off being working class and so forth. So I think allyship really has to be about those who are also willing to be social disruptors.
So rather just having the flag for pride or whatever, making sure that there's an investment all year through.
Yeah, it's a doing word, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
about describing your politics, it's about doing something.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important. I think what Phil was saying about solidarity is really important. If you think about, I get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to go for it. If you think about the history of the women's movement and the history of feminism, the place of lesbians within that movement has been simultaneously right at the heart and also hidden. You know, there was always this idea of kind of put the palatable at the front, right? And I'm afraid lesbians still are slightly less palatable versions of womanhood. So I think there's something about kind of solidarity across the LGBTQ plus movement and the women's movement, solidarity across the racial justice movement, LGBTQ plus movement. So I think that kind of, yes, allyship, but more than that, solidarity and showing up and investing and doing for each other is the thing that really makes the difference.
Yeah. It's exhausting, isn't it? Like, it's exhausting because, as you say, that history is hidden. You know, as a black woman, we often see that, you know, like the history of the role that black women or black people have played are hidden. Sometimes you think, what, we weren't a part of the movement or the struggle?
And you know this.
And you think, really? But it can be exhausting, right?
Yeah, it can be. But I'm actually going to turn this question around on you, Dawn. First of all, I wanted to say for the panel, it's just great to see four working class women on a panel like this. It's saying, you know, you were talking about the feminist movement. I always see it as something that wasn't totally working class inclusive, and this is great to see this panel moving forward. But I'm going to turn that question around on you, Dawn. Actually, I know you're chairing, but you were Diva Ally of the Year 2 years ago. So, you know, what do you think the importance of the ally role is?
I think I think it's important when you're in a circle of people, and it could be your friends, it can be your family, you know, it can be your workplace, and you hear something that isn't in keeping with solidarity, that you call it out. And sometimes it's difficult, right? Because sometimes you feel and especially, you know, in politics, sometimes it can be very difficult. I mean, I found the whole trans debate, for example, I found it exhausting. You know, and it was, you know, I had to do a lot of reading. I had to sort of talk to a lot of people. And actually, I was in a room with some people, and I replaced the word trans with black. And it was just like a conversation that my parents told me about when they were being attacked. You know, and I said, because people say to me, oh, why do you care? Why do you bother so much? I go, well, why don't you care enough? So I don't get it. So that's how I kind of like to live my life. And I like to live my life that way. But I think allies are important. Some people don't think allies are important, right? So there are some people in any walk of life. But I think allies are vital and important. But I agree, it's not just about being an ally, it's about having solidarity. So it's about calling out racism. If you see racism, you know, call it out. If you see any homophobia, call it out. And that's how we create a better society. What have we got to lose? You know, that's what I don't get. It's like people in their privilege thinking, I've got to hold on to my privilege, and if I let any section of my privilege go, then it's gonna mean less for me. You know, it ain't cake.
Dawn, both Linda and, you know, Nancy touched on feminism and the vision for Lesbian Visibility Week. You know what I would love to see is that we are really looking at this with an intersectional lens, a real intersectional approach, which means that even some of those who are in our own LGBTQI plus community, who are not exempt from being bigots, right, have to understand that you cannot be for equality and equity and justice if you are not supportive and not being seen to work with, you know, where we've seen the resurgence of Black Lives Matter, where we're talking about, you know, equal pay or pay equity for women, where we're talking about access for disabled or differently abled people, where we're still seeing the rate of knots young people facing homelessness, they will be lesbians that are in those communities.
Absolutely.
So we've got to really understand how our lives intersect and make sure that we're taking a really much larger intersecting approach to how we want to see Lesbian Visibility Week grow to a month, to a year, and to really calling it out every single day and usualising it as part and parcel of our conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And like, so, and in that, because there'll be some people who, and I always try and like be fair to some people who are genuinely scared of making a mistake, scared of saying the wrong thing. How do you cope with that? What do you do? How can you say to somebody who's maybe watching this today, you know, on the Diva TV channel, you know, they're going to be watching it throughout, you know, the Ned's Club. What do you say to people who are scared to say something in case they make a mistake?
Well, from my point of view, I say I make a lot of mistakes myself, and I'm the publisher of Diva, you know, and we all make mistakes. It's when you continually repeat those mistakes and do it time and time again. You know, it's like how many times can you apologise, and you try to learn from your mistakes. You know, that would be my advice. And the other thing is when you know that somebody's made a mistake, but it's not done with malicious intent, it's a genuine mistake, and you can try and talk to them and correct them and help them to learn. I mean, that's my view. The big point, I don't know if we should go there, for me, for Diva, we are very careful where we put our brand, you know, and sometimes when we see people that are continually making mistakes and not correcting them, I'm not sure if I should mention any names.
You're amongst friends.
You know, you know, we've had to withdraw our brand, you know, and we've had to go, and I know Stonewall has in the past as well, and just say, this is not acceptable. You may say this is a mistake, but how many times are you going to make the same mistake?
I think when it's an individual human being as opposed to institutions or whatever, one of the things that I think is really important is that we create space to say sorry and learn and move on. But I think also just to remind people that, you know what, like I make mistakes all the time. I talk in a way and I don't get something right, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to say it because we're live, but. You've got feelings in your own body when you can feel it. Like for me, I go baking hot. I'm like, oh, I didn't just do that right. And my feelings in that moment are not the important feelings. And I think for me, when I talk to people who are worried about, well, what if I use the wrong language around LGBTQ issues? I say, well, you know, you say sorry and you correct yourself and you move on. But or even more important than that, you think more about the feelings of the other person than your own feelings. And I think that allows the space for learning, and I think we all have that experience. We all get things wrong sometimes, and when we do, we all have that rush of like, you know, my feeling about what I've just did. And I think kind of just de-escalating your own feelings about yourself and thinking about the person that you're speaking to or the people you're speaking to allows you to do the learning that Linda's pointing to. And I think if you don't do that, and this is where I think some kind of institutionalized behaviours can come from, right? If you don't do that, then you get obsessed with your own feeling and how somebody, whether it's racism, whether it's ableism, whether it's classism, whether it's queerphobia, right? You get this feeling of, you know, everybody's picking on me. And people aren't picking on you. You had a feeling about getting something wrong, and then you amplified your own feelings instead of the feelings of the people that you hurt.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? Stop making it about you.
It's not about you. It's not about you. And it's not even often that big of a deal if you just kind of genuinely give it that apology and move on and do some learning.
I think it's also about unlearning.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
And to those that are watching that don't say anything because they're fearful of getting it wrong, you know, there's a lot. I always say Google's your friend.
I love a bit of Google.
Or actually, you've got this panel here.
Or DuckDuckGo.
There
are search engines available.
There are so many places or that you can go to find out a bit of information.
That's right.
And then unlearn some of what you've been knowing or thinking or saying for the last how many years. But you know, we all get things wrong, and we all have areas of improvement. None of us are perfect, but it is that learning and unlearning, and also sharing space with each other so we can actually interact and connect on different levels and bring our knowledge, expertise, our lived experiences to the table.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important. And like, I want to touch on children, because you've all got children. What ages are they? And you know, there'll be people who'll be like, "Oh, lesbians have children."
Yes.
Tell me your experience and views and other people's responses when you talk about your kids, Linda.
Well, like you say, people say, oh, lesbians have got children, you know. I've got two almost 15-year-old twin daughters. You know, they're very out about having two mums. But one thing that I have noticed, it's almost like they have to sometimes daily come out, you know, because they'll meet one mum, their friends, and then they'll meet another mum, and they're constantly having to reinforce why they have two mums. And I feel that goes, you talked about learning, there's something that needs to be done about the whole institution, you know, the whole system, whereas when they go to school, they shouldn't have to constantly come out for their parents, you know, those are, I'm trying to sum my feelings up in a nutshell, really, but
That's hard on the kids to have to constantly.
I mean,
15.
Yeah, I mean, they're good with it, but they're sort of like just rolling their eyes, you know, and they don't really understand why other people don't understand, you know, because it's their lived experience of having 2 months, and it's just, you know, they have 2 months, you know.
And your twins have different personalities, don't they? One's a bit like you.
Yeah. I don't know. They've asked me not to talk about them in public. So
we'll move on to Phil.
Yeah, I have an amazing 26-year-old daughter. Yes, she's mine. I just look very good for my age. I guess for me, you know, there was the stage of while she was growing up and she was angry because I was going through my coming out journey and feeling absolutely liberated. But if you don't bring your children along with you, then they've got to go through their process. But she is just amazing. I mean, she went to uni and she joined all the societies that she possibly could. She joined this LGBT plus society as an ally to support. And she tells everyone, oh yeah, my mum's the founder of Black Pride. And she ended a relationship with her ex-boyfriend because he said something really homophobic. And she just cut him off at the knees because she said she is not tolerating any of that. So for me, I feel like, that's my legacy. I've done something. If I leave this earth today, I've done something right because she understands what discrimination means. She understands that her mum's presence, being how I identify, is just as important and as valid as the next person. So
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Lady Phil, You're called Lady Phil for a reason.
Oh,
Lady
yes. Oh, every time I have to relive saying, you know, why I'm called Lady Phil, you know, I always get the hate mail or the hates for this.
So it's powerful.
I do. In 2016, I was nominated to be awarded an MBE. That's Member of the British Empire, empire being the operative word. And I gracefully declined. And this was really because when you think of the Commonwealth, when you think about, you know, LGBT plus people around the Commonwealth, how they are still navigating really awful, horrendous colonial era laws, I couldn't really accept anything that really elevates itself over the people I serve, and having set up UK Black Pride. So I declined, and I always say that one queen won't bow to another. So, And
then we had homophobic laws in the UK, and then
we took them on tour.
All
of the places, the majority of the places where criminalisation is still a huge issue of LGBTQ people are former colonies. Right?
And then
so
when we changed our laws, we
that.
expected them to change, and they were like, no, they're not changing the laws. But we exported those.
Especially after they've stolen
Yeah.
you know, took everything from particular lands. I guess that, you know, these colonial era laws, it will take such a long time to overturn them. That's why work that Kaleidoscope Trust does and also Stonewall, you know, it's about how do we change legal reform for LGBT plus people? And if we're talking even about lesbian visibility, can you imagine in a society where the patriarchy is alive and kicking, sexism is real? So our lesbians in, you know, Commonwealth countries in the global south are really not just navigating the laws, but how society treats them and doesn't respect or value who they are.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a project that's been working, it's called Out of the Margins, and it works with 22 different countries around the world, and it's working with lesbian, bi and trans women, human rights defenders in those countries, and everything that Phil is saying is true. Right, so the degree to which there's any space to be LGBTQ plus in a lot of places in the world, that is reserved for privileged men, right? And if you are a lesbian, a bi woman, a trans woman in those places, the space to exist, the space to have a livelihood, the space to be safe, you know, is so squeezed out. And I think, you know, it's so important to kind of understand that and connect with the history of that and connect with our accountability for that history and kind of bring that to our work and stand with those women in those countries. Because, you know, we have weeks like this that are incredible, and I get to swan around all week saying the word lesbian, which I totally love. And then I think about how lucky I am to live in a place where I can say the word lesbian out loud and say that I am a lesbian and not have the immediate expectation of like violence and oppression, you know.
Yeah, you've made me think about something. I think what we should do, like today, is try and get, because we are, as a country, we're currently chair of the Commonwealth. As a country, and I'm not sure how long that lasts. I think it's probably this year. So it probably ends this year. So I think we should do a letter saying what are we going to do as a country to undo and to be accountable for the laws which we exported. I mean, I've done something before, and I don't think we've had a response, but I think it would be a great thing for sort of for the start of Lesbian Visibility Week, for us all to sort of do a letter on that. So we should do that. I mean, Stonewall could lead on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kaleidoscope Trust and Stonewall are the civil society co-chairs of the Equal Rights Coalition this year.
Cool.
So, and I think that...
If you get the letter done, I'll get it out, I'll get it out to the MPs.
I get a sense you're good at delegating here, Dawn.
Yeah, well, you know. But like, I'll get it out to the MPs, we'll get some signatures, we'll make it cross-party, you can print it in Diva, we can send it to Boris Johnson, we can say, okay, Prime Minister, what are we going to do? And let's like put it back firmly on the map, happily do that.
And even more important right now when we're talking about cuts to spending, you know, especially for LGBT rights work, we need to make sure that, you know, there is investment in that. So I want to really make a shameless plug, and whilst we're talking internationally, you know, to what's called TSEN, the Commonwealth Equality Network. This is a group of over 60 civil society organisations across the Commonwealth, and there are some amazing, you know, amazing people. But I really want to shout out to those lesbian women, you know, that we see you, we hear you, we feel you, and thank you for all that you do every single day, not just during this Lesbian Visibility Week, because things are tough. Things are ever so challenging, but they make it look like we're not even trying. Because they are doing their darndest to really make sure that, you know, LGBT plus rights are across the piece, whatever they can do. So this is a big shout out to TSEN, which Kaleidoscope Trust is the host, hosts the secretariat.
Fantastic, great plug. Plug away. Plug away. Plug away. I think I'm definitely up for us doing something and marking Lesbian Visibility Week, Linda, that way.
Sounds good to me.
I think it would be phenomenal. I really do. But I mean, thank you guys so much for sort of sharing your stories. And I just wonder, like, what advice and encouragement would you give? So, knowing what you know, your journey that you've been on in just your young years.
Yes.
The journeys
This
that
is
you,
you.
the journeys that you've all been on. Sort of, what words of encouragement, what advice would you give those people who are finding their sexuality for the first time? You know, we haven't. What encouragement would you give? Because everyone's been locked away for a year, and I think it's been so tough for people. And some people have been in hostile environments in their own home. Just what would you say to them? What's your advice, Linda?
Well, that reminds me, the Diva survey we did in partnership with Stonewall came out today, and that showed, I think, 79% of LGBTQI women suffered with their mental health during the lockdown.
That's high.
Yeah, very, very high. So my advice would be just to say you're not alone, and that basically there are others out there, and this is why we do stuff like Lesbian Visibility Week, etc. So, you know, my advice would be, you know, it's a journey. I'm just going to say this very quickly. When I was 15, I came out as gay, lesbian I should say now, to my family. They didn't take it well. They gave me a choice, either have electric shock treatment or leave home. I chose to leave home. My LGBTQ family adopted me, you know, gave me a place to live, so I wasn't homeless. But the fact is, at that time, if I could look forward and see I would end up as publisher of Diva, what I'm trying to say is whatever situation you're in, it's a journey, you know, and don't feel too low about it. And before I end and pass over to...
Take your time, Linda, plug away, take your time. This is the start of your, you are the founder, this is your legacy of Lesbian Visibility Week. So we're not finished with you yet, we'll come back to you anyway, but keep going.
No, I just wanted to take a minute just to thank everybody at Team Diva, because they really worked hard. We're a very, very small team, and I just wanted to thank them for all the work they've done to get this week going, because I know everybody thinks it's about me, but we are a team. But that's it.
Oh no, that's you answer. I'm still
feeling a bit emotional. So I guess I would say a few things. I really feel conscious. I feel like I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Like when you think about who you most admire, I most admire that every day in my community, working class lesbians in the generation above me who were out, just being out in the generation above me. And that gives me, you know, I think about young lesbian women now and I think, well, I'll create space for you, and then you create space for the women that come after you. And I think that's really important. Like we can each just create a bit more space for each other, generation after generation. And it's what Linda said, you're not alone. And also just I think as women, we're made to feel like we're not good enough, you know, and particularly as lesbian women, that we're not good enough, we don't fit society's concept of what a woman is. So I think, you know, to say that you are enough, you are beautiful, just as you are. And when the world kind of pushes in on you, get bigger.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it, that intersectionality, isn't it? Women are always told they're not enough, or you're not good enough, or you're not right enough, you're not tall enough, you're not skinny enough, you're
quiet
not
enough,
not
loud
quite
enough.
And then you've got that on top of being a lesbian. So you've got that on top of that, you know. It is hard, isn't it?
Can be, can be.
But you're saying...
Get bigger.
Get bigger. How do you get bigger, Nancy? How do you get bigger?
I think, like, for me, I try and take physically and spiritually a lot of space, right? Like women, and I think especially queer women, where you can feel the world is like squashing you into a smaller space.
Yeah.
And you can kind of try and make yourself small enough to get by, or you can say, I'm just gonna push out. And like everybody has days when they can't do that. Everybody has days when, or weeks, or months, or even years, where they have not got that energy or their mental health is not in that space. But I think for me, I guess very early realizing I was never gonna fit in was a liberation for me. So I'm like, fine, I'm never gonna fit in, so I'm just gonna be this.
Stand out.
You know, I'm just gonna stand out.
You're never gonna fit in, It's a standout.
Yeah. And so I think finding that space where you can and taking that space where you can and be around people that want you to be big.
Yeah.
Right? Put your energy into people that want you to thrive.
Yeah.
Be in spaces with people that want you to thrive. Don't waste your time with people that want you to be less than you are.
Yeah.
You know.
And how do people get in touch with Stonewall? I mean, what you took on Stonewall CEO in a pandemic. I mean, who starts a new job in a pandemic, number one? And that is a massive job, Stonewall. But how do people get in touch with Stonewall?
So stonewall.org.uk, we have loads of programs that are free for people to participate in and free resources. We do a lot of work with queer activists of the next generation, so kind of come and get in touch with us, and tell us what we're doing wrong as well, right? As well as come and participate in what we are doing.
In a positive way. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nancy. And Lady Phil.
Yeah, and you're able to call me Phil.
I quite like Lady Phil. They're quite close.
Just going back to your question, I think I want to say that this is also about those who cannot come out, who are unable to come out, who identify as lesbians, but because of being in such precarious conditions or being in such hostile environments, whether it's here or whether it's abroad, we've also got to remember them. And I always speak unapologetically, specifically to Black and POC queer people, because I really understand the challenges that we face. I'm not saying that our families are more homophobic than the next. I'm saying that we face particular challenges in this combined challenging the racism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, as well as the sexism and the patriarchy that exists. So I speak specifically to them because of even my own lived experience and what I share with others. So it's, I see you. How do we get bigger? We collaborate. Without collaboration, you're unable to do anything. You know, no woman, no man, no person is an island by themselves. So if you do not collaborate, you don't get unity. When you look at how the civil rights movement or any other movement was born, it was born out of people coming together with their allies, with those in the community. So I think that, you know, Lesbian Visibility Week, all of the other movements which we may be involved in, it's about unity, it's about a uniformed approach, it's about collaboration, connection, and really explaining who we are to each other in a way that there's no judgments, because that's important. And you know, UK Black Pride is about that movement. You know, we've collaborated and we work in partnership with Stonewall. We've collaborated and we work in partnership with Diva. We've collaborated and we continue to do that in a way that is positive, that is liberating, that's empowering, and in a way that voices are being heard which haven't historically been heard. And that's how we make ourselves bigger, turning up the volume on society, you know, sticking two fingers at it and saying, you know what, this is us and this is what we want.
And like UK Black Pride, so I sort of joked about sort of dancing the night away, but UK Black Pride is so welcoming. Right, and I mean, it's just phenomenal, the vibe, like the vibe where everyone is just happy, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you wear, who you've come with. I mean, you had a queue like around the park for people trying to get in. I mean, it was a massive queue. There was about as many people outside almost as there were inside. I mean, and I've never seen I mean, anyone that's never been, I mean, and that's the thing, I actually think you probably need to ban straight people from going, because, you know, it was just, everybody was there. It might not happen this year because of obviously the pandemic. What do you hope to see with UK Black Pride? Where's that going to go next?
Yeah, so unfortunately we're not having an in-person event. You know, when you look at 2019 and there was, over 10,000 people in Haggerston Park, we talk about a safe and brave space. It would be wrong of me to say I can look after 10,000 people in one space. So this year we will have a virtual Black Pride, but it will be for a whole weekend. So there will be different rooms for our DESI community, a well-being area, one for our young people. We're going to be doing something again with Stonewall. We're hoping, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Linda, that can sponsor and support as they always have done. And it's really just about making sure we're telling, as I keep on saying, our stories. And this year's theme is called Love and Rage.
Right.
It's because of the love that we all feel for each other or that we haven't been able to receive, but also the rage because we're allowed to be upset, we're allowed to be angry. We've lost people that we love through this pandemic. We've been hurt through discrimination of our bodies being used as political pawns. We've seen our trans siblings constantly have their lives debated when really it's just about thriving and surviving. So this year's theme, Love and Rage, is please come and celebrate with us, get involved, engage, and let's just make sure we've got the biggest and best Black Pride, which will be online, and we will be making sure we've got our migrants and asylum seeking communities and families who are able to connect as well through investing money back into those organisations.
Cool. So everybody's welcome.
Everybody's
welcome.
As long as Black Pride is centred for Black and POC LGBTQI plus people.
Brilliant, fantastic. Can't wait. Does anyone used to go to, you used to have these weekenders, I've been to a salsa weekender, soul weekender.
Yeah, oh my
I think
God.
that's the next stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Linda, the founder of Lesbian Visibility Week, this is your life, if I like saying. This is your legacy, and you've been through a lot in your life, as you say, coming out at 15 and being abused in that way, really, by your family with that suggestion. This is going to be your legacy. Where do you hope to see Lesbian Visibility Week in 5 years' time? What's your hopes and dreams? If you could, this is a lot of questions to throw in at the last, if you could do one thing tomorrow, what would that be? I know that was a lot to throw in there, but while we've got you here on camera live, I thought I might as well give it a go.
Oh, I can't do with the one. If I could do one thing tomorrow, I think to wake up and be alive would be great. But I can't. I think with Lesbian Visibility Week, I'm really conflicted because, I started an event called the European Diversity Awards about 10 years ago. And it was, it's really grown. But I can remember saying then when I started that I hoped that one day I wouldn't need to have an event like that because, there would be equality. My dream, I'm conflicted because my dream would be that we don't need events like Lesbian Visibility Week. We don't need Stonewall UK, but we do. And it seems to me that if I had a dream, it would be that we live in a society where it's equal and we don't have to have events like this. And it's conflicted with what I'm doing, so that's it. Really.
But it's good for the learning, though, and it's good for the. It's good, we don't do what we do for awards. You've all won awards, and we don't do what we do for awards. But then I've learned, I think, to embrace that, to say, do you know what? That means we've done something right. We've got to do something even better next time. So I think the awards that you do are important. I think they're valuable, and I think to those people, and also it's a good way to showcase organisations that are not just doing performative support and action and performative allyship, that they're doing good things. So I think it's a great way to kind of showcase. So well done for launching Lesbian Visibility Week. I know the flag's going to be flying at City Hall probably just as we're ending. We'll try and get it mentioned in Parliament too.
Thank you.
We will do the letter all together. You know, we've got Stonewall, Kaleidoscope. You know, this is like a powerful letter that will get done. And yeah, I hope that it goes from strength to strength. I hope that we get to a stage in society where people could just be who they are and they are loved, you know,
Absolutely.
regardless. So thank you, Nancy, Lady Phil, and Linda for joining me today. It's been quite a wonderful, emotional journey of a conversation, and I'm glad that, you know, we can say lesbian all week. Just say it. Lesbian Visibility Week.
Let's say it.
Lesbian.
Every day of the year, Dawn,
Yes,
is fine.
just
Yeah.
lesbian.
If I-
Lesbian.
If I could just quickly thank UK Black Pride via Phil, Lady Phil I should say, so apologies, and Stonewall for the partnership, because it's having the support of these organisations that's really helped to build it up and amplify it. So thank you.
Well, thank you to you, Linda. I guess, you know, this is movements, right? We're sat here and we're talking unapologetically about Lesbian Visibility Week when maybe 30, 40 years ago, who would have thought this would happen? And to also have a prominent MP who is a great ally being able to support and speak to that. So, you know, thank you very much. And my sister
pleasure.
Nancy and I are going to go and plot and scheme
That's
and
it.
think
That's
of
it.
other
Get
ways
us
to
moving
change
for the next
the world.
40 years.
Yeah.
That's
Do
right.
it. Do it. And congratulations on your new job.
Thank you. Nearly 1 year old, but thank you.
I tell you. Well, thank you all so much. It's been a pleasure. So everybody joining online, please leave your comments online, and Diva, i.e. Linda, and her team will be responding to any questions and comments that you have. So thank you all very much, and join me next time when we'll have another panel. Probably, unfortunately, not such an amazing panel of lesbians, but we'll have another panel. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you.